Hey, what is immortals? It is TC Crew here with a new video for you. Welcome to part 2 of What If Overhaul Was a Hero. I just wanted to greet you guys by just saying, sit back and relax, you're in for a treat. So we begin.
His quirk?
Nezu asked, peering up from behind his desk. The rodent had spent the last several hours filing an ever-growing stack of paperwork regarding the school's newest arrival. Sharp craven Hughes stared back from behind the rounded spectacles that shone on a face as honed as a blade and as cold as ice. A face belonging to none other than Sir Night-Eye, the leading hero being the Shai Hazakai raid that resulted in an unusual house guest. This house guest manifested himself in the form of the young Kai Chisaki, a boy that had been living with and working amongst the Yakuza for what he estimates to be age 6. Pushing his glasses up into place, he peered down at his notes. His quirk is called Overhaul. It allows him to reconstruct and deconstruct matter with a single touch. Night-Eye said, furrowing his brow.
Wasn't this the same quirk that was used to kill not only one of the police responses there at the raid, but a Hazakai member too?
The sentient rat questioned, his unflinching gaze meeting Night-Eye's icy one. Night-Eye sighed. Unfortunately, yes. However, I think this young boy is redeemable. When All Might burst into the room, he found him and another young boy, Hari Kurono, quirk Chronostasis, in the room with the Shai Hazakai boss. The reports seem to suggest he was forcing Chisaki to kill against his will. When they entered the room, one of the police touched his hands, and I believe his body reacted on instinct. Night-Eye said, setting the papers face down on the tiny desk. Principal Nezu, if you gave Guy a chat.
So be it.
Nezu announced, interrupting Night-Eye completely.
Chisaki will be placed amongst the young Shota Aizawa and Hazashi Yamada of Class 1A. I think they'll leave him with a good atmosphere to grow and really prove himself to be a hero.
Nezu said, taking up his saucer and glass before offering one to the professional hero.
Tea?
Nezu asked Night-Eye. Chisaki fiddled with the hem of one of the stark white rubber surgical gloves he wore on his hands. The chatter of the bell echoed down the hallway, but unlike the usual steady drone that was quick and fanatic, a telltale sign that class was to start soon. Hare Kurono appeared at his side. His chrome-haired best friend gave the unsmiling Chisaki a wide smile of his own, his arrow-like hair hanging down into his forehead like the hands of a clock. You ready for that test today, Kai? I heard Mr. Stronghold is going to be taking us to the USJ today for rescue training. You can finally show off how much you've been working on that quirk of yours. Harry, known as Kai as Chrono, said excitedly. Kai's own beady golden hues met Chrono's equally colorless ones. Harry, can you just be a normal kid for once and not be excited for school? Kai asked flatly, rubbing the sleep out of his golden orbs. Oh, come on, Kai. Aren't you excited to finally put that training Night-Eye has been giving you into play? Really show off? He asked, gaining only an eye roll from his friend. Kai waved off to the young boy, trudging his way off to class. By then, several months had passed between his initial entrance into UA, giving the young Chisaki ample time to settle in and find his footing. However, the scars remained, mostly in the young boy's obsessively compulsive cleanliness and mesophobic tendencies, evident by the mask he wore over his nose and mouth, and the gloves he wore to cover his hands. This caused the young 16-year-old to catch some eyes. However, most of them left the supposed cursed boy alone, leaving him to his lonesome. What's up? The loud, overly obnoxious sound of none other than Hazashi Yamada rang out from his classroom's open door. The obnoxious blonde had been amongst the first few to attempt to befriend Kai, and while Kai's antisocial personality was off-putting at first and made it difficult, the young blonde and his less-than-social friend Shota eventually befriended the young man. Walking into class, almost all eyes befell the young, dark-haired man. Shota gave him a quiet wave, while Hazashi ran up to the young man and grabbed him by the shoulders, giving the young man a prompt but firm shake. You know what this is, man! Hazashi yelled, joy practically dripping from his words. Without waiting for a response from Kai, he yelled, We gotta pick out our hero names today! Awesome! He shrieked. Kai frowned, seemingly pulling his shoulders into himself at the sudden contact, but otherwise not moving. "Don't be such a buzzkill, man. We're gonna be heroes," Hasashi said. "I'm not exactly a morning person," Kai responded. The bell overhead signaled the beginning of class. One by one, Kai, Harry, and the others began filtering into their seats, with Chisuke taking a seat beside his childhood friend, with Hasashi and Shota at his opposite side. "Today's day, class," Stronghold began. "The staff at UA hold the rights to deny any names should we find them to be inappropriate or unheroic," he said, earning more than his fair share of odd sideways glances from the class around him, the irony seemingly lost on the man. "I've been thinking, and I think I've got the perfect name," Hasashi announced, grin spread wide. "The voice hero, Present Mike, yeah!" he yelled, shattering the eardrums of all those around him. "What?" Stronghold yelled, finger in his ears to staunch the ringing. Harry exchanged a glance with Kai before looking back at the teacher. "The clockwork hero, Chronostasis," he said, earning several claps from around the room. One by one, the students, male and female alike, listed off their names, leaving only Aizawa and Chisuke as the last two people to speak. However, following some haggling from Hasashi, Shoto finally rolled his eyes before saying, "The erase hero, Eraserhead." All eyes turned to the young Kai, the anticipation almost palpable. "The restoration hero, Genesis," he said. Hours later, Kai and the class found themselves settled amongst several heroes and survivors, all of which were scattered out amongst varying disaster zones, spanning large fires to floods, a stranded boat, a mountain rescue, and a collapsed city. In teams of two, the class split up, aiming to divide and conquer. Harry and Kai split apart from Hasashi and Aizawa, the aforementioned moving towards the more urban disaster zones, lured in by the pain cries of those within the zone. Immediately they were met with destruction. Tons of bricks and rock had fallen atop a woman ranging anywhere from her 30s to her early 40s. Harry went to work almost immediately, moving to secure the woman. A quick prick to her arm, slowing her movements to almost zero, reducing her chances for injury, while Kai went to back up his friend. "I think she has broken an arm. Some minor lacerations because of the rubble, but she'll be fine," he said, looking up at him. "You mind?" he asked. Kai peeled the glove off his hand, placing his fingers on the large chunk of stone, holding her down. He quickly deconstructed it into dust. Moving his hand down to the ground, he speedily manipulated it to form a flat bed of sorts for the woman, elevating her up, and from the rubble allowing Harry to continue tending to her. It would go like this for the next several hours, Harry isolating them and Kai destroying whatever debris sat on them, to allow his friend to mend their broken bones and lacerated skin. At the end, when the bell finally signaled the end of the exercise, Kai had completely lost both of his gloves, and stood victoriously with the most amount of points gained out of his entire class. Hasashi said, "Kai, man, that was sick!" Hasashi said to the boy, "With that insane quirk of yours, you're gonna make a wrecking rescue hero!" the loud blonde said. Kai half-heartedly rolled his eyes, but the soft smile on his face was very noticeable by the gathered bunch. Harry gave Kai a smack on the shoulder as the gathered bunch of young heroes began making their way from the facility and filtered out into the buses that would begin to take the students back to the school. As they gathered in, Kai sat somewhere near the back and chose to use the 20 or so minutes it would take to get back to the school to lay his head back against the plushy, leathery surface of the seat and close his eyes to rest. Closing his eyes, the sight, sound, and sense of the bus would fade away as Kai thought back to the times he spent amongst the shy Hazakai. It had been several years since his initial induction into the Hazakai, and it had taken several more until he would be saved from the Yakuza and find himself at UA. Harry had gone with him. And because of that, the young Chisuke felt far less alone than what he could have felt. "Kai," a low voice asked him, jarring him from his sleep. It was Aizawa. The brunette hummed, cocking an eyebrow as he diverted his sleepy gaze to the long-haired boy. "I've seen what your quirk can do. You'd make a phenomenal medic. Why do you take up being a hero instead of a medical profession?" he asked him. Kai frowned, turning his gaze and looked down at his gloved hands. He clenched them tight. so tight that all the blood evaporated from his knuckles and left them cadaverously white. It's a long story, Kai began. I don't remember a whole lot from when I was younger. I just know that for as long as I could remember, I was alone. And I had been that way for a while. This old man came across me one day and offered me a home, a bed, hot food. How could I say no? So I went with him. He was a member of the Chihazaka Yakuza. But I didn't care then. I was tired, wet, cold, half-starved. He let me stay there, and I did. I lived there for what seemed like a lifetime. That's where I met Harry. He was the only kid there like me, and we got close pretty fast. When I was 9 is when I started training to use my quirk. That was 2 years before I came here, he said. My quirk lets me break down and reconstruct matter, no matter what that matter is from. He made me practice on living people, again and again, deconstructing and reconstructing them. There was so much blood, and they screamed so much I couldn't begin to think of how much it hurt. All Might found me covered in blood. I used my quirk on one of the officers that was present that day. I couldn't undo what I did, and I just so much as think about touching someone else now makes my skin crawl. Kai admitted. He absently scratched at the top of his hand and thought. I don't use my quirk on people anymore. I've decided then that I'd only use it in the surroundings, and if I needed myself to accomplish whatever task I was given. So I decided to pursue being a rescue hero, to make up for all the hurt I caused when I was younger, he said. Aizawa noticed the eyes vacant and glassy. I think that the mistakes you were forced into in the past shouldn't keep you from doing as much good as you could in the future. My quirk isn't half as useful as yours, and it limits me in terms of what I can do to help, Aizawa said, sitting back in his seat. The bus rattled as it pulled out into the highway. Wake me up when we get to UA, Kai said, finally letting sleep claim him. Thank you for indulging yourselves in the story thus far. I hope you enjoyed it. Now there are a few more things that I'd like to go over before the video ends. Firstly, we've got a second channel called Anime Deep Dive. Anime Deep Dive goes deep into the facts and lore of a wide variety of anime. It's sure to expand your weeb knowledge for all kinds of series, guaranteed. On top of that, we got a third channel called We the Celestial Naruto What Ifs. It's what we do on this channel already, but in the vast world and lore of Naruto. Go check it out if you're in the mood for some choo-choo action. Secondly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details will be in the description below. Lastly, if you're interested in what we do here at We the Celestials, then I would like to extend out an invitation to join the team. The only caveat being we only accept members 16 years and up to join our crew. You can sign up for whichever category fulfills your interests by joining the recruitment Discord using the link in the description below. Our Discord is an all-around fantastic place to be, whether you're a fan or looking to join our band of misfits. We're always looking for members to join us. Well, that's it from us for today's video, so thank you all for watching, and have a great day.